Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome. This is the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Your host, Joey, the Italian Stallion Murray, joined as always by Russ, the Idea Guy Morgan.
Wait a second, Joey. I know you like to ask me something here. I'm gonna switch it up though.
Okay.
I may need to change my nickname.
Wait a minute. You don't like the Idea Guy anymore?
Well, I love the Idea Guy, but I was riding down the road the other day, and my kids were listening to the podcast with me, and they're like, "The Idea Guy, the Stallion, that's a nickname."
I agree with that. I agree.
The Stallion's a nickname. Idea Guy. And so my 6-year-old Ryan sitting in the back seat goes, "Dad, I got it. I got your nickname." I'm like, "Oh yeah? What is it, buddy?" He's like, "Big Time." I was like,
he just came up with that on the spot.
He doesn't watch wrestling, by the way. I mean, that was just like right off the top of his head. I said, "Big Time, buddy. That's great. Like, how'd you come up with that?" And he's like, "Because you're big and things about time, you know?"
He just put those things together.
Just big time.
Nice.
It just makes, I mean, you never know. Like last night, by the way, we're riding home from the lake. We're listening to some podcasts, and we're interviewing Mark Podolsky before.
Sure.
And you had said something on the show like, "Oh, well, if 1 + 2 equals, 3," and Mark was like, "No, 1 + 2 equals 100." And Ryan was like, "No, it doesn't." So, I mean, like he gets it. So maybe it is big time.
Okay. So if you've been listening to the show and you think we should go with big time, Russ, Big Time Morgan, let us know. If not, we're just going to keep the idea.
Yeah, I think he's probably the Idea Guy, but I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, speaking of ideas, today's guest is one of those who has created many ideas. He's written 3 different books, My Life in 1,000 Houses, Mitch Stephen. And then he goes on to talk about how he failed forward, how he did owner financing, how to buy bargain properties. I mean, he had awesome material, but it all started with very humble beginnings.
Yeah, I would say this guy is big time, by the way, just to continue with our theme here. Yeah, I think you're going to pick up some pretty amazing nuggets. One, I love his idea of the moat theory. Anybody, you remember what he said about that?
Well, tell us.
Okay. You need to build a moat around your castle. What he talks about is really what we talk about, right? To create passive income that equals enough to cover your monthly expenses and wants, or wants and needs, I guess is how he said it.
Well, and I love the fact that, I mean, really, we are all trying to take control of our finances. We're wanting to pick the path that we want to go on, but it's get there faster.
Right.
And his whole story about how to get there faster. Joey, he discloses in this podcast that he actually bought a house every 3 to 4 days for the last 20 years.
Yeah. I'd say he knows a little bit about real estate in general. And I loved his versatility in the real estate space. We talk about pick your path. I think if you engage with what Mitch is talking about in these books, you can figure out which path works well for you.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of just great nuggets in this interview. I just know he exudes the financial freedom that we talk about. Let's stop trading time for money. Let's find a way to get to a point to where we can say, I want to walk out the door of the job if that's what we want. And as he says it, protect our castle. And so every decision we make thereafter is literally for the fun or for the enjoyment of what we want to do with that dollar. So let's jump into the interview with Mitch Stephen.
Dad, do you have to go to work today? If you're tired of having to answer yes to that question and you're ready to stop trading time for money, join Russ and I on this journey to financial freedom at community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com.
This is the place where you can take control. You can pick your own path and get there faster. Go to community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com.
Welcome into the show. We have Mitch Stephen in the studio today, man. Welcome, Mitch.
Hey, how you doing? That was the shortest introduction I've ever had.
Well, so you didn't get to hear the intro before this, so you have to go back and listen to that.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And you're going to be so amazed by the fact that Joey and I talk just unbelievable things about you. We make up stuff as we go. It's just like an awesome introduction. And it has something to do with our family because we find a way to tie that into every intro as well.
That's right.
So good. I'm happy to be here. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. We went from 98 to 102 degrees down to 55 yesterday. So I don't know. We went from summer to winter like overnight.
Yeah, there's where we are in October, right? This is the time for that to happen. So, all right, Mitch, there's so many things I want to talk to you about in this intro, but I want to start off with a pivotal moment in your life and take me back to 2001. There was a series of events that happened. Everybody remembers 9/11, but in your life, there was two other things that happened that really changed the way that you were operating and looking at life. Tell me about 2001.
Before that, I previously stumbled into the real estate space. I bought some houses, a condo I wanted to live in, and then I found a bigger condo and a nicer one, and I decided to rent the one. You know, I didn't plan any of this. I just kind of stumbled through life, but I was very observant. And I think as I walk through life, what I tend to do, or what we all tend to do, or we should tend to do, is when things hurt, we should sit down and analyze how we stop that from happening. And when things feel good, we should analyze how do we make that happen more often. So I bought this house and I wanted to do this new one, and it wasn't a very good time in the economy. So condos were certainly not selling. So I decided to rent it out. And then I noticed that when I rented out my first condo and then I rented out the second bedroom in my second condo, that I was living for free. And I thought, well, that was very pleasurable. And like, how might I do that again? You know, or how do I multiply that? Then I sold both of my condos because I learned about association fees, and I knew that they could hit me with a special assessment anytime, and I would not be able to handle it personally at the time. So I sold them all, and I ended up with like $45,000 in my bank account, and I'd never seen $45,000 in anybody's bank account, much less mine. So I thought, well, that was kind of cool. So I ended up getting in this business, and I was buying houses, and I was selling them with owner financing, and then I was selling the note all within the same 30 days, actually all within the same closing. Sometimes I would do like quadruple closings. I would buy the house, I would sell the house owner financing and create the paper, and I would sell the note all at the same time in one closing in 1 hour. And I got pretty good at this. I did 45 my first year. I did 65 my second year. I did 150 of them my third year. And then associates closed. We call it Black Tuesday.
All right. What's Associates, by the way, for someone listening?
Associates was a division of Ford Motor Credit who bought billions of dollars of third-party notes and what do you call notes that had less than stellar payers? What do you call them?
Subprime?
Subprime notes. Yeah. And they bought billions of dollars. So no matter who you were selling your note to in the United States, them or you're selling to someone else, if you're selling to someone else, they all ended up in a big bundle somewhere that eventually made it to the end of the train tracks to Associates. And when Associates closed, every note buyer's business died across the globe. Across
kind of like a monopoly. They were the one big player that you were selling to, or primarily.
Everyone was selling to.
Yeah.
You know, I sold my notes to a lot of different people. I later found out that they all sold their notes. They were marking them up, and selling them to them. But they were doing it like they wouldn't make that much off of me, but they had millions and millions of dollars worth of notes. You know what I mean? So they would be given the bulk. So they closed. And previous to that, my brother had committed suicide. 2 months later, 9/11 happened. And then Associates closed and my business was in question. So I had lost my brother. My country was under attack on its own soil, which had never happened, which was very disconcerting. And then my business, I could no longer sell notes. And I was in a panic. I mean, that kind of sweat where you wake up in the middle of the night and your whole side of the bed's just soaking wet. Oh. And then I just looked in my mirror one day and said, you're going to figure this out. I got real righteous with myself and got right up in my face and basically started screaming at myself that you are going to figure this out. You're going to get up in the morning early and you'll stay late till you figure out how to fix this. And So the first conclusion I came to is I had 50 houses for sale at that time in my inventory, vacant with for sale signs out in front of them. I said, I got to sell the houses. So first thing is stop the bleeding. I got no money coming in. I got private lenders to pay. So get someone's ass in every one of these houses, So I took about, just say $3,000 down on 50 houses. And I started getting a payment coming in that was bigger than the payment I had going out. I'd average about $400 a month positive cash flow above what I owed my lender. And so if you do the math, 3,000 times 50, I had 150,000 in the bank, and I had 20,000 a month coming in. And then that was the big revelation of 2001. Why the hell did I ever sell a note? And I haven't sold a note since.
You said, wait a minute, I'm selling all this good cash flow off to somebody else. Why don't I keep it?
Right. And stretch the tax out on it over the years. You know what I mean? Instead of paying huge tax every day. And so that was a big revelation. And so, I'm not going to tell you that I've never sold a note since that day, but as a general rule, I don't sell notes anymore. I'm a collector of notes. People ask me all the time to sell them. And when I do sell my notes, I sell them at par. I don't discount.
Well, so 2001 obviously got you to think through your business model differently, but it wasn't. If we back up, there was a moment in time. I started reading. You're author of 3 different books. I encourage you to go out and read those. I started with the first one, which is to me the most interesting one. It tells your story, tells kind of why you have been successful. You, as you kind of resonated with a book that was written, kind of the self-made in America by John McCormack, right? You went through hardships, but also you bootstrapped. You figured out ways to do it. You started reading books. You started educating yourself. You talked about how people made fun of you with all the CDs and books and other things you would carry around. But those lessons that you learned were very vital in your importance. I wrote down a quote that you had in your book, and I know you said you've kind of changed it a little bit now, but I love this, where it says, financial freedom happens when your wants and needs are exceeded by your passive income. And now you refer to it as cash flow, because there's not a whole lot that you can be passive in. You got to keep your eye on it. But that moment in time, somewhere along the way, you just said, I've got to figure out a way to build this. In your book, you refer to it as the moat theory. Take me back to that moment where you started figuring out, okay, real estate is the game I need to get into. Yeah. But there was that moment in time where you said, here's why, and here's why it's going to help.
Well, in the beginning, you think about real estate, you think, I need a lot of money. I need to make millions of dollars. I want to be successful. I want to make millions of dollars. And so all this is very big, very overwhelming. And then when I heard that statement, financial independence happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income, which, like you said, I changed to cash flow later. It dawned on me, like, that sentence was a revelation to me on many different levels. And the first one was that you didn't have to be rich to be financially independent. I always had associated the word financial independence with being rich. Right. People who are financially independent, they're rich, right? No. If all you need is $3,000 a month to pay your bills and everything and not have a job, then you're financially independent at $3,001 a month coming into your mailbox. That's not rich. Right. So that was the first thing. Financial independence had to do with me and my overhead and what I could produce as an income that would come to the mailbox. That was number one. Number two, it said to me that I controlled that bar. And at the time that I read that, I needed $4,500 a month to be financially independent. But then I scuttled about $1,000 a month of bills in the name of getting freer faster. And this was another revelation. Like, I wasn't lowering my overhead because my hopes and my dreams were lower or anything like that. I was just lowering my overhead so I could get free faster, because this is what I figured. If financial freedom was in the cards for Mitch Stephen, it would happen after. If being wealthy was in the cards for me, it would happen after I got financially free. And why did I come to that conclusion? I came to that conclusion because once I was financially free and I didn't have to have a job, a job, I could quit giving 2,600 hours a year away to making some other person or some other company money, and I could focus 2,600 hours more a year on me and how to make me better and how to make my business better and how to improve as a person and a businessman. So all of a sudden, trying to make $1 million shrunk down to almost something very doable. man, I just got to figure out how to make $3,500 a month come to this mailbox. I quit studying about making millions of dollars. I quit studying everything. I'm just trying to figure out how to get a measly $3,500 in the United States of America to funnel into my mailbox every month. And all of a sudden, I did it in like 6 months.
So Mitch, this is so inspiring because I think everybody wants what you're talking about, but why do you think that most people never hit that realization? And why do you think most people are stuck still thinking like you started out? Like, I have to be rich to be wealthy. Yeah.
First of all, you can read about it. It's okay and it's better than nothing, but it's not going to do it. You have to get around people that have done it and watch them how they do it. The turning point in my life as far as believing that it could be done was when I saw it firsthand. How did I see it firsthand? I was driving around with a guy that was talking to me about flipping houses. He was showing me what he did, but it didn't really, I still thought he was full of crap, probably, maybe, sort of. I mean, he drives a nice car and all that, but that's all deceiving bullshit. You know, like there's a lot of people driving a nice car don't know how they're going to make the next payment.
Exactly.
But one day he says, do you want to ride with me? I need some support. And I said, what's going on? He says, I'm going to mail my income tax check today. I said, what do you mean? You need support? What do you mean? You don't know where to deliver it or what? He goes, no. He says, I just need emotional support. And he said, come over here and you'll see why in a little bit. So we drove to the post office and he didn't put the check in the envelope on purpose. He had them in his pocket and he pulls it out. He says, I need you to put this check in that envelope. Then you can see why I need emotional support. It was like $422,000. He had a check written out to the IRS for it. I said, okay, that's it. I mean, that's it.
That's sold.
It. I'm sold. I'm in. Yeah. And I dropped that check into the box. So I know it wasn't fake. It nothing. I dropped it in there. I saw it. Yeah. So I did it.
I want to point something out really key that you just mentioned, but also something you talk about in the book over and over and over again that I think is just critical. How many people did you sit with for free that you offered up your time or your expertise that you walked away from that relationship smarter or more closely aligned with your end goal as a result of that meeting?
When I gave my time free?
Absolutely.
The reason why I have a podcast. You know, I get smarter by the minute talking to the hundreds of people across the nation about what's going on. You think I can know all the trends and the new software that comes out all the time? You got to cast a really wide net to stay on top of any industry. And this is how I cast a wide net to stay in my industry. I'm talking to 40, 50, 60 smart people every Tuesday night. I talk to people on like this podcast right here. I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to tell me something before it's over with, and I'm going to go, man, I'm glad I got on the podcast. You know, I mean, I'm open to that. Just because I've done well doesn't mean that I can't learn. This business, just like every other business, evolves every day. And there's softwares and apps and laws being passed and loopholes being found and all kinds of things every day that, you know, sometimes I'm talking to my students and they go, hey, I just did this and that. And I'm like, how in the hell did you figure that out? That's freaking genius.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. And then I always hate this. You slap their forehead and go, man, if I'd have known that crap 10 years ago, I'd be worth another $10 million. Right. You know, like if I just have known. Eddie Speed tried to tell me about partials years and years ago. One day, you know, like it wasn't that long ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I did a partial deal. It was so great. And I called up Eddie and I said, Eddie, man, look what I did. I did this thing. He says, Mitch, I've been trying to tell you this for 10 years. You know, sometimes you're just not ready to, you're not mature enough, or you're not ready to see what they're trying to tell you.
Yes. No. Well, okay. So a couple of things there. One,
you're talking about dental work there, right? Partials.
Partial. No, partial.
All right, we'll hold that one for another question because somebody's going to ask about that. But here's a couple of things from what you were saying there that I was unpacking. One, never be afraid to learn something. And we have a book that we reference a lot. One of our mentors wrote called Becoming Your Own Banker. And there's a section in there referring to the arrival syndrome. That once we get to a point where we feel like we've arrived in knowledge, then that's where we really have come to our demise. And I love it when you say you're always willing to learn and listen. And I love it, the fact that the teacher always learns more than the student. And when you go out and teach, I don't know if you knew this, Mitch, but Joey was a a student of mine for a while. He actually was a client of mine for about 4 years, and he would do exactly what you said. I would share an idea with him that I thought was brilliant that could never be improved upon, and he would come back and show me how wrong I was and how he had taken that idea and come up with things I couldn't even imagine. And I love that concept. A couple of things else. In your book, you had a quote that said, "Opportunity seldom knocks when you're ready."
It never knocks when you're ready.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you were saying with Eddie, is he was teaching you about partials, which you can unpack that for us if you want to, what that means, because Joey here doesn't understand what that is, and maybe the person listening to you doesn't either. But it never knocks when you're ready. But when you're ready, that opportunity finds you, and also probably finds you in the moment of learning.
Well, I was thinking though a little bit different than that. I mean, I read the book Nothing Down by Robert Allen. It took me 7 years to own that concept. I read about the concept on paper, and I understand English. I knew what those words said. I didn't own that concept till I accidentally got backed in a corner, and I figured out something on accident that said I wanted to buy this fourplex, but I didn't have any money. So I just kept making offers against all odds to try to make a deal with no money. And because I wouldn't quit, because I didn't quit trying to make different offers where I had no money in it, the guy finally said yes. And I walked back and I said, that's what the hell Robert Allen was talking about. And then finally I owned that concept in my heart. And now I can buy the whole friggin' town because I'm so broke. I got more nothing than the whole. I mean, if you can buy houses with nothing down, I had so much nothing I could buy the whole town. So what I was talking about was, that apartment complex, that 100 acres, that's just outside your comfort zone, but it's a fantastic deal. They never show up when you're ready. It seems like you always got to get out of your comfort zone when those opportunities knocking. I had chances to take on this educational business. I wasn't really ready, but I had someone who really wanted to help me that knew the educational business inside and out. I wasn't ready to come on to the educational business, but if I was going to do it, this guy that I really needed was standing right in front of me, or this person. And I said yes, even though I wasn't really ready or didn't know if I was ready, because that time, that opportunity might not ever come again.
Yeah. So, all right, so I'm going to take you back. You mentioned a book, Nothing Down by Robert Allen. That was a big kind of aha moment for you. And in your book, you mentioned that when you read that book, you realized that asking more questions during the negotiation helped you understand that. Explain that to us a little bit more. What were some of those questions?
It's just like learning. It's all about learning, man. You can't learn when your mouth is running. And people like you and me who like to talk a lot, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I like to talk. I'll talk.
You're talking about Russ, right? Because he's the one that does talk most of the cases. I mean, yeah. I'm usually quiet.
And you got to watch out for those quiet guys, because they're the ones that'll figure out the shit and take all your money. I'm just kidding. You got to be quiet and listen, because the art of the biggest part of negotiation is listening, because you got to find out where the chinks are in the armor, where the needs are and the wants are, and where the pain points are. And if you're just talking and making offers, you're never talking to this guy, and you're never talking to that seller in their language. Yeah. I also learned to code people, blue, red, yellow, green, and talk to them in their language.
Okay, so you're going to leave us hanging and not tell us what those are.
Okay, so, red's analytical, engineers, bunch of numbers, needs facts, datas. Yellows, live for the moment, don't give a crap about the future. They're in it for now. What pleasure, the pleasure this minute. How can you make me feel good in the next 5 seconds? Greens, planning, security, blues, very giving, very emotional, very touchy-feely. So I had this person who was a blue. I didn't know this yet. This is a great segue here. So this guy has his house. He wants to sell it. I said, why are you selling? He says, well, my daughters had 8 children, of which we don't know who the fathers are. And we're taking care of these 8 children. And someone at the church gave us a bigger house. And we've moved in that house. And this house that we have here, that we don't owe anything on it, but I probably need to sell it. I don't need this other house anymore. It's too small for us. So I called this guy for a year and 6 months to try to buy his house. And I kept giving him numbers, and I kept saying, you'll make this much profit and everything. Finally, I was interviewing a guy named, I think his name was Harden, about coding people. And he was telling me about how to code people. I was interviewing about this. And then we hung up, and right when we hung up, my alarm on my phone went off and says, I need to call that guy with that house that's sitting there doing nothing again. It's time to call him again. And then I thought, I need to code this guy. What is this guy? He's a blue. He's taking care of 8 babies. They don't know where the father is. He hasn't kicked his daughter out of the house. This man's a given son of a gun. This guy he's going to the church. He must be a good church guy because someone in the church gave him a house. I said, this guy's a blue. He's a blue. So I called him up in 30 seconds after that analysis and said, sir, and this is true, I have a family who needs to be on that side of town. They probably can't afford to be on that side of town, but the people that are going to take care of their kids when they go to work lives pretty close to where your house is, and I need to help them find a house over there. Could you help me help these people find this house? I bought the house by 12 o'clock that afternoon.
That's amazing.
For less than I had been offering him, because the people I needed to help couldn't afford but so much.
So Mitch, tell us right now. So you've gone through multiple iterations in your business. We can't even do justice to your book. Like every other page is another train wreck and another learning opportunity that I highly encourage. If you haven't read his book, go out and get it. But today, bring us to today. What you've been up to today. What does your portfolio look like? What does your business look like? Like how are you continuing this pursuit of building your moat and building passive income?
Well, the moat
or
was
cash
built
flow. I should say cash flow.
The moat was built a long time ago. The secret is, the part of the moat is you never risk what pays for what's inside of your moat. Now, your moat, as you get more successful, your moat gets bigger. You just got to make sure you have enough cash flow to handle it. So there's always a new horizon, right? People say, well, when are you going to retire? I said, I'm never going to retire.
It's too much fun, right?
Well, it's like this. So I just did the math on this the other day, and I fell out of my chair myself. And when I talk about numbers like this, I want everyone in the audience to understand. I know somewhere, 4 miles down the road in either direction right here, somebody who can wallpaper their house with my money and can wipe their backside with my financial statement. I get it. I'm not saying I'm the greatest in the world, but I'm just telling you where I'm at. So I've bought a house every 4 to 5 days in my hometown of San Antonio, Texas, in or about my hometown. For 22 years, I've bought a house every 4 to 5 days. We did the math the other day. I've bought over 2,000 houses since March of 1996, and I took 2 years off in the middle. So in 22 years, I bought around 2,000 houses. So, it's about the money in the beginning. Once you make more money than you think you'd ever make in your life, you figure out that money's not solving every problem. In fact, it's causing half of your problems. And so you got to find a way to start balancing life and money in the job. And then you get to a point where it becomes empty. And then you got to find a higher reason to do this job than just yourself and your bank account. And then still trying to balance everything you want to do in 24 hours in a day. I got to this point, and this was my last greatest challenge. Well, second to the last greatest challenge. I was going to quit doing this because I was burned out. I was wearing every hat. I was the buyer. I was the seller. I was the fundraiser. I was the closer. I was the general contractor. I was everything. I was advertising man. I was HR. I was every department. So I decided I was going to quit, but I thought, what a shame to throw away $1 million+ year profit. What a shame. Couldn't I give up half of that and find people that would run this without me or very little of me? And I had tried to do this 5 times before and failed. And here's a real revelation. I had failed, and I figured out later, even just recently, why I failed at those other 5 times. The sixth time I went and signed up with a group that had a bunch of people that had already accomplished what I wanted to do. There was 48 people in that group that had already done what I wanted to do. And it cost, about $30,000 a year to get in that group when you figure everything out. Hotels and planes and everything. And I said, I'm going to do that. But I thought that's what the main difference was. And that was a big part of it. This time I'm going to pay some mentors who have done what I've done. It sounds expensive, $30,000 a year, but I'm fixing to walk away from $1 million+ a year. I'm fixing to put it in a box and throw it away. So 30,000 is nothing compared to, so it was easy to write that check and I had the money. But looking back, what really helped me get to where today I've bought the last 350 houses I bought, I have not seen, and I have not seen the last 350 people who bought my houses. And I don't see them when they come in to make their payment. It just happens. And what the secret was is the other 5 times when I decided I was going to do it, I never gave myself permission not to do 100 houses. So I was still trying to do 100 houses and fix a broken business. When I got to the end of my rope, I didn't give a damn if I saw another house or not. I was going to spend this $30,000 in a last-ditch effort to try to save this business before I walked away from it because of exhaustion. And because I no longer cared if I did 100 houses, I was able to spend the year working on my business. I only did 30 houses that year. They just walked in and laid down. I wasn't even looking for those 30. And that's when it happened. So I had to give myself permission to not do the numbers I used to do so I could focus on getting the business to do it on its own or do it without me. And it took me a year to maybe a year and 4 months to make that happen because I was getting people, training people, getting the wrong people, firing that person, very disheartening, getting another person, retraining again, learning why I suck as a hiring guy. I started going with the personality test. Personality test was hire this engineer with the geek that says 4 words every 2 hours. I'm like, this guy's never going to make it. He's still with me. 4 years later, the test was right. Mitch Stephen sucks at judging who's going to make it. Right. A lot of different things, but that was the 2 things. I paid to be around people that had already done what I wanted to do, that were doing it. I picked a handful of them who were not only who I wanted to be off the field, but they were exactly who I want. Who was not only who I wanted to be on the field, but they were who I wanted to be off the field as well.
Right.
I needed to find someone I related to, not just because they made a lot of money, because we had the same belief system and the same, whatever you want to call it. But, I wanted someone I believed in on the field as well as off the field when nobody was watching.
Well, you said a lot of stuff there, and I think, man, I just wish we could just take this on and on and on.
We can't. What's the matter?
I think we'll just press stop here. And
well, he's literally covered all 5 pillars, I think, in this one interview in the shortest amount of time possible.
He's gotten through it. So a couple of things here. So one, what you're talking about, I love finding mentors, finding others who've done what you wanted to do. And spending the money to do that. I mean, that's exactly why people join our community. That's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking to hear the stories of the guy who's a corporate attorney. He was doing everything he could in his job and not finding success, not finding enjoyment in it, and found it. He did his financial freedom formula. He sat down and said, how much money do I need? And for him, it ended up being 64 homes. And that allowed him to get out of the rat race. It's the guy who was driving a mail truck around and was like, I hate my soul crushing job. This is not what I want to do for a living. And he found a means and a way to get out of that. And they want to hear those stories. They want to be able to talk to people just like you. So I get it. I understand exactly why people join groups, pay money, and do what other people aren't willing to do.
Get this straight. I mean, there's no getting around it. So if you're out there listening, you won't beat what I'm trying to tell you. You can't dig under it or go around it. You're either going to pay the street, and that's going to be very stressful, and the street will take everything you have, or you're going to pay someone who's already been there that can help you get through there. And that's not as stressful, and it's much more peaceful, and you got someone in your corner that you can talk to. When you're doing it on your own, you're always second guessing yourself. Like, I don't know, this seems right, but is this really right? I don't know. It's a very stressful place to be. I like to tell everybody, I graduated, because I'm a dumbass, I graduated from La Calle U, which is the street in Spanish. And I'm going to get a ring that says La Calle U. I'm in a room and everybody's, I graduated from Alabama and I graduated from the University of Texas. And I say, I graduated from La Calle U. And half the people in the room go, oh yeah, I've heard of that college. And the other people wink. The entrepreneurs look at me and wink. They go, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
But the street is relentless. It's the most expensive college in the world. It'll take everything you have. It won't give you a degree. It won't give you a graduation ceremony. It won't give you anything. So get with somebody. Do it that way.
No, absolutely. And in your book, again, we keep referring to your book. You have 3 books. We're referring to the one of Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. You have a quote that says, if you could try and fail without going broke, how long would it take you to try and succeed? And I think that's what you were doing with your business, is that you said, look, I got to give myself freedom not to have to try to do 100 homes, to find a way to succeed, and knowing that you already had succeeded in business and in life, but you had that strategy built that protected you. And so going out and trying to get to the next level was not a big issue.
What I, in retrospect, what I did when I was figuring out the moat theory was I was trying to figure out how I could go out in the world and fail without going under every time I failed. Right. When you lose your house and your car, and the financial stress is so big that you get divorced and everything, that is stress. So I didn't know it at the time, but I was coming up with this plan. How do I go out and allow myself, give myself permission to fail without going under? And that was the moat theory. I got the $3,500 a month I needed coming in. I'll never risk that. And then all the money I accumulate over $3,500 a month is now just research and development money. If I lose it all, I just come back into my castle. I pull the arrows out of my ass and go, well, why didn't someone tell me that these guys were hiding in these places with these weapons? But now I know. So now I'm going to make a new advanced, better plan. And when I drop the drawbridge to go back out, the key was, though, by not risking what paid for what's inside my moat, I could go out there and fail over and over and still come back and not have collapsed. Right. Not have my wife. I still have my car. I still got my air conditioning turned on. I still got TV. I still got a place to sleep, and I still can shower. And the groceries are going to be on the table. That's still paid for, and everything's okay. I just need to regroup, get my collective crap back together again, analyze what went wrong, and go back out there. And so when I said, if you could fail without going under over and over again, how many times would you have to fail before you became wealthy? And so inadvertently, I didn't know that's what I was doing when I created the moat theory, but that's what I was doing. I was trying to make a plan so I could fail without going under every time.
I love that. So Mitch, you have completely brought us around, full circle, 100%. And you're so entertaining. I could listen to you all day long. For those of you that are in the community, we're going to have Mitch in there to do a Q&A after this episode like normal. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you other than that, Mitch, what would be the ways that they could do that?
Well, you can go to 1000houses.com and find everything, including my podcast, a bunch of free stuff. Go to 1000houses.com, click on the free stuff tab. I've been accused of giving away way too much. Some people in the industry go, you're giving away everything. And I said, if you want to do it on your own and you're that 1%er, that 2%er, go out there and be successful on your own with no help. More power to you. If you think you need some help, you'll figure out how to find me if you want my help, and I'll help you, or find someone else. Find someone who fits you, whatever strategy. But so I'm here trying to give out and give back as much as I can. And believe me, I'm for no lack of students or no lack of income, because of it. It just seems like the more you give, the more you get. It's kind of biblical, huh?
No, very biblical. Well, Mitch, we really appreciate you. We thank you for coming on to the podcast. We thank you for coming into the community and answering questions that we did not ask because we got so caught up in all the other things. But I know people have lots of questions. They want to probably dive into your other 2 books, The Art of Owner Financing, 200 Ways to Buy Bargain Properties. All of those subject matters can be covered when we go into the Q&A. And I encourage you to go out, find these books. By the way, you may not know this, but Mitch is also a songwriter. You can go to MitchStephenmusic.com, and I've already listened to some of his music, Joey. I don't know if you want me to sing it to you or not.
No, please. No, we're good. We're good.
Right, well, I won't do that then. But thank you so much, Mitch, for coming on the show. It's been our pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's look forward to the Q&A. I love that, and I'll get to meet some of your community, and we'll answer any and all the questions we can.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. If you've been listening to our show for a while and you've heard the Stallion and I talk about how we use these life insurance policies to invest in our business, to buy real estate, and to do numerous other things, and you're like, look, I want to do that. That's what I want to have, but I don't have one of these policies. It's so stinking easy. Just go into the show notes, press the button to schedule a call with us. Somebody on our team can walk you through that process. Or go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, click the schedule a call now.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.